you all for coming. My name is Jennifer Remenchik, and I am a member of the exhibitions team here at Brand. Art Talk Tuesdays is a new initiative of the Brand Library and Art Center, and this is our final one for this season because I'm taking a break for summer, but we'll be back in the fall. In which we invite contemporary artists from the Glendale and greater Los Angeles area to discuss their work and the issues that surround it, followed by a moderated discussion with myself and a public Q&A. This program is free and open to the public. I would like to take a moment to thank my team members, Shannon Curry-Holmes, Chloe Kors, and Kaylee Cannon. I would also like to thank librarians Blair Whittington and Barry Falls for their technical support. Other Frequencies is an invitation by artists Phillip Byrne, Beatriz Cortez, and Tatiana Guerrero to listen to the memories carried by plants and rocks, to listen to life in the cosmos as well as the interior world of bodies and in the subterranean world. The visions and sounds in their multimedia work captures a world that is not meant for humans, even if it exists inside our bodies and inside the earth, where the land safeguards our bones. The memories of our life on this planet, our gestures of generosity, our cultures and technology, our spiritual connection to the planet and to the cosmos. Artist Phillip Byrne was born in Sacramento and raised in California's Central Valley. His work focuses on the porosity of bodies and the non-anthropocentric entanglements between bodies. Viewing life is predicated upon the multi-species collaborations and the relationships between different types of matter. Beatriz Cortez is a multidisciplinary artist based in Los Angeles. Her work explores simultaneity, life in different temporalities, the untimely and speculative imaginaries of the future. Tatiana Guerrero is a sculptor and multimedia artist based in Los Angeles. Guerrero explores memory and migration in her work. And I will let these three artists, who are each going to give mini presentations on their part in the exhibition that they collaboratively did, and then we'll come all back together. So, welcome. I think we're starting with Tatiana.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you, Jenna, for inviting us. I want to start with, my name is Tatiana Guerrero, and I'm originally from El Salvador. I am a sculptor and a multimedia artist. My work explores memories and movement without boundaries. I am a self-made artist, and I learn mostly through experience and practice. My work is influenced by the generosity of my peers, who are always happy to share ideas and create collective spaces full of art, music, and information, where I find my inspiration, meaning, and joy. First, I learned to weld 5 years ago. I don't know how to paint or draw. I don't understand the science behind welding, but I'm a sculptor. I enjoy working with metal. My process is really simple. I have a visual of what I like to do, and then metal become the piece that tell me what to do and how to do it, and that's my process. With this process, in this method, I create my piece that is right now at Joshua Tree and the Lazy Eye Gallery that is in Yucca Valley, California. This exhibition is a collaboration with my two great artist friends, Beatriz and Phillip. The final show is a product of our conversations about listening to non-human memories carried by rocks and plants. These memories are not stored in the brain, but fairly in the genetic codes and the collective behavior of some bodies. We also talk about observing the interconnection of cosmos and underground through the movement and matter of energy. During my first visit to Joshua Tree, I walked around the park and I bumped into this particular group of rocks formations called dikes. These rocks are characterized by the straight, semi-uniform shape and dark color. Dikes are a result of a volcanic activity millions of years ago, when molten rocks were forced into existing cracks in the earth crust and solidified over time. This made me think about non-human time. This made me think about non-human time, sorry. And had these rocks carry memory themselves, because rocks are a record of natural process and evoke a sense of other dimensions humans cannot see. Also, these rocks are a physical manifestation of migrations, transformation, adaptation, survival. So dikes are also a reminder of interconnectedness of all things and temporalities. Lazy Eye Gallery is a couple of miles from where I first encountered these dikes from Joshua Tree Park. I started thinking about creating a presentation of temporalities that engrave these physical landscapes in Joshua Tree and the water tower floor, which is the floor of the Lazy Eye Gallery. My art piece is a group of metal rocks in semi-straight line formation, emerging from the floor of the Lazy Eye Gallery. These metal rocks resemble dikes that travel to underground porosities created by water, gases, and other fluids. These pores are the ones that allow the migration of these materials passing through the air without restrictions. At the interior of the water tower, dikes emerge carrying memories from the underworld. Their flow of energy and migration matter become entangled with bioluminescent bodies, sounds, and a dome, the bounce light that remind us that the cosmos is nowhere else but we are intimately connected to it. And those are the lines of the dikes, or representing the dikes. This language might be speculative. There are other frequencies between humans and non-humans words, suggesting that humans do not fully understand or recognize it. However, it is implied that this language has the potential to reveal deeper connections between all forms of life and to open new speculative possibilities for communication and understanding. By opening ourselves up to these possibilities of other frequencies, we can get deeper connection and understanding of what it means to be part of our collective. And now I'm gonna invite my friend Phillip to come up. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Tatiana, and thanks everyone for being here today. My name is Phillip Byrne. It was really exciting to imagine the possibilities of collaborating on a show at Lazy Eye Gallery because it's such a unique gallery space, and posed some really interesting possibilities for site-specific installation and collaboration with the existing architecture. The gallery has a skylight that connects the top deck to a room on the ground floor, and I was particularly transfixed by this architectural feature because it serves as a portal connecting the stars and the earth. The glass lid on top of the skylight contains hundreds of small bubbles that evoke constellations of stars, or perhaps cells inside the body, or visions of a world that might exist on a microscope slide. In imagining the gallery transformed into an observatory space, it became interesting to think about the skylight acting as a kind of microscope, magnifying whatever was beneath it, but also obscuring it. I began imagining the architecture of the gallery as a body and contemplated transforming the skylight into an intestine or a colon or some interior bodily space. The work I created is a continuation of a previous body of works titled Xenographs. These works explore the interior body with non-human vision, attempting to see bodies from speculative and non-anthropocentric points of view. The works zoom into the interior of the body where human eyes cannot travel, adopting the vision of machine eyes like endoscopes and microscopes that travel through and zoom in and out of the body, and in the process transform the body into a non-human landscape. In the work, sculptural forms made of paper, glue, and dye, which evoke both geological forms and bodily organs are wrapped in cocoons of latex. Sculptures wrapped within sculptures create protuberances that blur inside and outside, and speak of the multi-species entanglements, self-organizing matter, and the ways in which illness inscribes upon the body. The site-specific installation at Lazy Eye Gallery incorporates paper, cardboard, glue, dye, latex, steel, acrylic, staples, mylar, LED lights, and electrical wiring to create a bodily portal through which light moves, connecting the stars, the body, and the earth, and entangling and dialoguing with the works in the show. The light filtering through the observatory dome flows through the skylight, illuminating the metal rocks below. This conversation of light traveling from above to below caused me to become interested in how light acts as a cosmic language, connecting and entangling porous bodies. Through the glass of the skylight at Lazy Eye flows light from a sun 93 million miles away, bathing the gallery floor in a light that takes 8 minutes to travel from the sun. The light entering the skylight fluctuates throughout the day, just as the light from the sun that penetrates our own bodies fluctuates. This light is a language which creates dialogues between bodies and inscribes itself into and upon all bodies on Earth. It moves through bodies of plants, facilitating the process of photosynthesis, penetrates human bodies, allowing for the conversion of UVB rays into vitamin D. It moves through bodies of water, melting ice and sculpting the surface of the Earth over the course of billions of years. However, this communication from the sun to bodies on Earth is not the only dialogue spoken in wavelengths of light taking place. Thousands of organisms on Earth are bioluminescent, creating their own light from chemical reactions. The fungi, fireflies, glowworms, bacteria, and myriad of sea life that make up this cohort use their chemical glows to communicate directly with other entities around them, using light to evade, to lure, to startle, to attract. While bioluminescence is relatively rare on land, bodies of water are teeming with bioluminescent light, and the prevalences of bioluminescent light increase the deeper down into the ocean one travels. It is estimated that 80% of deep sea life is bioluminescent. However, many of these organisms have never been seen by human eyes. The light they emit is not for human eyes. If we could travel to the deepest depths of the ocean and burrow through the oceanic crust, we would find a luminescence deep in the darkness of the earth below us as well. The liquid iron and nickel core of the earth glows like a star buried 1,800 miles beneath the surface of the earth. Unlike the cold bioluminescent light of the creatures living in the ocean above, the energy accompanying the light of the deep earth is hot. Magma glowing in the mantle and lower crust of the earth collects in chambers, moves in veins and rivulets through the earth, slowly melting the rock around it, absorbing and digesting it. This light sometimes pierces the ocean floor in the form of magma in plumes and hotspots, and the surface of earth as lava in volcanic eruptions, such as those that have shaped the landscape around Joshua Tree. Volcanic ash, which accompanies volcanic eruptions, is sometimes copious enough to block light from the sun reaching the earth, altering the dialogue of sunlight with the planet. When we look up at the sky at night, at the darkness of outer space, there are 5,000 stars visible to the human eye. Because of the speed of light is finite and must travel millions of miles from stars at various distances from the earth, the light we see in the present travels to us from 5,000 different paths. To look at the night sky is to look at a collage of multiple temporalities. Some stars may no longer even exist. A star might be dead for many years before the last of its photons hits our eyes. Of course, beyond the limits of our organic vision, 200 billion trillion stars are estimated to exist in the universe, although it's also hypothesized that there may be an infinite number of stars beyond the cosmic horizon that we cannot see because their light has not yet reached even our most powerful telescopes. Most of the dialogue of light that occurs in the universe occurs at wavelengths and intensities that human eyes cannot perceive. Even the light that our own bodies emit remains invisible to us. The chemical processes that occur inside our bodies release photons and emit light and electromagnetic radiation. In what we might imagine to be the absolute darkness of the interior body, light exists. Photons glowing like the stars in the sky, magma beneath the earth, bioluminescent beings, there is a cosmos of light in every body. However, it is a light not meant for us. Dialogues spoken in UV and infrared light are occurring all around us and inside us constantly, just outside the range of human vision, to be perceived and communicated by other entities. These dialogues of light connect, inscribe, and entangle bodies. We both receive and emit light, and are both a part of and embedded in this cosmic dialogue of photons and electromagnetic radiation occurring at different timescales and in different temporalities. And that's all. I'll hand my over to Beatriz.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, Jen, for organizing this, and it's so nice to see you after all this time. Well, Other Frequencies is an invitation to listen to the memories carried by plants and rocks, and to listen to life in the cosmos as well as in the interior world of bodies and in the subterranean world where other rivers flow, matter migrates, roots touch each other, find nurture, communicate. The visions and sounds in this exhibition capture a world that is not meant for humans, even if it exists inside our bodies and inside the earth, where the land safeguards our bones, the memories of our life on this planet, our gestures of generosity, our cultures and technologies, our spiritual connection to the planet and the cosmos. The works in the exhibition evoke a history of scientific discovery, colonial expansion, space travel, but attune our minds and ears towards frequencies existing outside of human subjectivity. However, these signals originate from Earth, from within bodies, from portals to other dimensions and spaces. The exhibition is therefore about portals. What I mean by this is that the exhibition is about the portals that exist in holes. In this case, the shaft where Philip's work is located is an example, or the telescope is another example, but also the symbolic and metaphoric portals that one opens in space and in the fabric of time, in the surface of the landscape and on the atmosphere, as in the case of the seashell or Tatiana's rocks. These are holes that are not empty, they are holes from which other realities, other temporalities, other dimensions and other speculative possibilities emerge. I wanted to share with you today two main ideas that became visible when seeing the work installed in the space and once the water tower had been transformed into an observatory. The first one is that the exhibition expands the water tower to an underworld, or to the world below the surface of the earth and beyond the dome towards the cosmos. However, at the same time, it reminds us that we are looking at the cosmos from inside the cosmos. And it invites us to imagine having non-human vision, other ways of seeing in order to really look at the earth in ways that we have not done before, or in ways that we don't usually look at it at all. The second one brings an important element, sound, that makes present other potential temporalities and other auditory realms that are not meant for humans. By channeling sound through available technologies, such as ultrasound machines, stethoscopes, contact mics, we're able to hear sounds and to access soundscapes that are not meant for humans, but that are here all around us. More importantly, the exercise related to sound in a landscape that makes long temporalities visible because it is a landscape of millions of years in the making, allows us to imagine sound waves coming from this and from other temporalities. It allows us to imagine what sounds might have been possible in other temporalities, what animals were present, what sounds the earth emit, what sounds will remain in the future, what soundscapes does earth, our bodies, the atmosphere, etc. generate. And I wanted to finish with a word about our collaboration. I believe that we're really privileged because we spend so much time together. Sometimes, most days, we don't talk much to each other because we're working in an industrial setting making sculptures together, and we usually are wearing ear protection, so we're basically screaming at each other. But we are there, available, and interested in what each of us is thinking, and we are able to, and we do all the time, say to each other, "Hey, what do you think about this? Can I read something I wrote to you?" And then we take a break. And I am thinking this, I'm thinking that, and we often bounce ideas off of each other. And I think this experience of collaborating for this show was part of that, where our own ideas, experiences, and works came together seamlessly because we were able to talk about them so many times, to visit each other's works, to make room and honor each other's works, to install each other's works. And so once installed, the work in the water tower, in conversation with each other and with the architecture of the building and the landscape of Joshua Tree, our work expanded in ways that were really interesting to me, and I love the experience the most. How did it expand? Well, in engaging with each other's works, the portal that is created by Phillip's works, for instance, is not only engaging with the architecture, but also channeling sounds and light from above to below. Tatiana's rocks are not only visible on the lower surface of the structure, but they also serve as a metaphor for the underworld, but more importantly, for the motion of everything on the planet. Everything becomes nomadic, malleable. We are in rafts. Everything is on the move, reaccommodating itself. The dome, when gesturing an observatory, invites visitors to sit down and look towards the park, towards Joshua Tree. It frames it. It invites us to look at the earth. It also bounces the sunlight and its different colors back to other locations on earth and in the cosmos. And finally, the seashell, it holds sounds from other temporalities, from other bodies, and it evokes another time when this desert was an ocean. Before I finish, I wanted to mention that the exhibition closes with a live performance of communication across species, a speculative language of matter and the energies that sustain life, with the participation of my nephew, who's a great musician, Benjamin Cortez. This will take place on Saturday, May 13th, and I'm very excited about the non-human and human conversation that will ensue from that. So thank you very much.
So I wanted to start off by asking, this should work now. By asking about how you all work together, because do you all work together, or like how did you meet, or what's your working relationship?
Well, I feel like we all have the common of like we meet because Beatriz. We met because Beatriz. I met Beatriz when I came to the U.S. Probably, I would say like 15 years ago.
Just wrapped it up.
I'm sorry. So, from there, I've been meeting all these great artists, including Phillip, that came to our group recently, probably last year. And yes, we all work together. Actually, we work at Beatriz's studio, and from there, we also do our practice.
Okay, great. And then y'all are all part of a collective as well.
Yeah, I'm part of a collective called the Imaginaries of the Future. And it's a self-organizing group of artists who Beatriz also helped bring together and the group has meetings, there are speakers, projects have kind of organically formed from the collective and the discussions that occur in there. And it's a really beautiful project.
Yeah, I was really lucky to meet these artists because they happened to invite me to give a talk, or because I was at an artist residency, etc. But it was really their own doing, that their work is so much in tune with each other's work, and I thought they had to meet each other. So they were 15 artists, and that's how this self-organizing collective emerged. And we have studio visits with each other, etc. Andrea over there is also part of the collective. So we see each other. Several of them came to the opening of the show. We support each other in many ways, even though some are in Canada, some are in New York, some are in Costa Rica, but most of them are in California.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how did you come together to work on this specific exhibition? Like, how did that happen?
I think that it came together because our work, we were thinking similar things, and Heidi had invited us to do a show and to interact with the water tower. And I don't think that all the details came together at once. We just were thinking out loud about the water tower. We had studio visits, thought a lot about the work. But there's, for example, the seashell, I would say, is the last piece that we inserted. That was a piece that I added at the end and made us late getting there because I was still welding. We didn't know where to install it. It was our big problem at the end because we had thought everything so well except for that seashell. I think that a lot of our work is improvised, and so that was beautiful that even though we had seen each other's work, supported each other in making our work, we had not been able to see it together and come together in the space until we were at the water tower, and so that was really fun to be able to install. I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that.
Yes, the day that we install and we see all the pieces together, we came to realize that how they connect and how they interact to each other. And even though we create the pieces separately, when we brought it all together, it has the instant connection because our conversations, our collaborations, and what we do is similar.
Yeah, I mean, collaboration unfolded just very organically, and it was interesting to see how our conversations that we have at the studio turned into these dialogues between the different works, and the wider landscape of Joshua Tree and the architecture of the water tower.
Yeah, and I would love to add that about your prior question that yes, we work together in my studio, and my studio is it requires all this intense labor to make my work, and that labor requires us to trust each other, to protect each other, and to spend so much time together. And I'm really fortunate to have such amazing artists working with me, and the studio is such a great space with good energies and such generosity. And I think how we met, I don't know, I think in the end, people just come together because they have so many things in common. And in the studio, we have space for everyone's practice. And so that's also really beautiful for me to watch each artist flourish and to celebrate each artist as they make their own work too. And so.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention improvisation, because I know specifically with your work, it's often quite large. So it's funny the idea of incorporating improvisation with hardcore welded sculpture. Like that's not usually like a leap that people make, but I can kind of see it, especially in the way like zip ties are happening. Zip ties I very much like associate with on the fly. You know what I mean? I also wanted to ask, like, it seems like all of your work has some sort of relationship to fragmentation or pieces kind of coming together or coming apart. And I was wondering if you could maybe each elaborate a little bit on that commonality, or if you see it as one.
Well, I will say the main thing is because it's practical.
Okay.
But also creating these big pieces, and they said like we need to assemble things to have it all together. So it's better to connect little pieces to create a whole than having just a big piece.
Like literally in transportation too,
Right.
sometimes. Yeah.
We can say that, but also my piece and relationship is because I was trying to imitate the landscapes of Joshua Tree.
Right.
And that's pretty much fragmentations, You go everywhere and you see these rocks formations and the cracks and the pores, and it made something beautiful. So I wanted to replicate what I observed in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think in terms of fragmentation, I mean, I'm really interested in bodies and how bodies relate to one another or are incorporated into each other, and visions and ways of seeing the body that are outside of our normal perception of our organic eyes. So, like endoscopes and microscopes fragment the body in a way, allowing these alternative views of the body and turning it into something non-human, a landscape in the process. So I guess I'm really interested in that, and I see that as a form of fragmentation.
Yeah, and for me, my work is improvised. I draw every line with chalk on the ground, or we draw it in the air, and we are improvising always. So there isn't a CAD file that somebody can take and so-called fabricate my work. My work cannot be fabricated. It can only be created because we're creating it, making one decision after the next, and so there's no fabricating it. And so in order for us, without complex machinery, etc., we are working, we're doing labor, oftentimes honoring the labor of immigrant workers. So we're using low technology. And so our work, sometimes some works come together with zip ties and sometimes with bolts, but still it's not easy. So installing this dome with the wind in Joshua Tree was quite an adventure. Actually, it was insane. It took us more time than anything.
Why did you do it? Because there have been some pretty significant windstorms out there recently.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. There wasn't a windstorm, but it was very difficult. I think it was maybe took longer than anything else. Even though we cut the shaft of the skylight to place Philip's work in it, and then rebuild the walls around it. And we painted, and we did all these things. It took longer than all that because it was really hard to put together the dome and to feel that it was safe, that it was going to withstand the wind, etc. So we added some extra reinforcements in the corners, etc. And so it took us a long time, but it's very sturdy, even though it's very fragile all at once. And so that was really interesting.
Fragile, but it's not.
Yeah, it's also interesting with collaborative, because the thing is that it's like y'all are collaborating in a lot of different ways, right? So, and it's also interesting with like exhibitions like this that are collaborative, issues around authorship. It's like, do you do you view these pieces as discrete pieces that in some sense are like, this one is your piece, this one is your piece? Do you view it as entirely collaborative, or is it sort of in between the two?
Well, I think we were having a conversation about it. When people walked to the exhibition, they couldn't tell whose piece was what, belonged to who. So they were like, is this one yours? Or is that one Beatriz? Or is this one Phillip? So I guess they're entangled to each other. In the case of this exhibition, we did it separately. When we put it together, now we call it one piece. It's not like this is mine, or this is Beatriz, or this is Phillip, because I feel like the items by themselves won't be what it is.
Right.
It had to be all together.
It's like you all brought different things to an installation.
Yeah, I think all the works add content to each other, and the dialogues between them are so important that, yeah, they just have to be together. I didn't title my piece because it felt so entwined with all the others in the show.
Yeah, I did want to. So that piece where there are photographs where you're seen within a cylinder. Now, is that the object you're referring to that was so difficult to install? Which piece is that? That took the longest that you were just saying?
The dome.
The dome. Oh, this dome. Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. Getting it up there in the line. Yeah. Tracks. Okay.
But Philip's piece is in that shaft that looks like a skylight. It's a skylight when there's no dome there. But the skylight is a little lower, and so the gallery allowed us to cut it off, to insert his work, to make it higher, to fix the drywall, and then to place the top again. And so even that took less time than the dome.
I also wanted to ask, it seems like a lot of the concerns in, especially in what I was hearing in your presentation, it's like they sort of span across philosophy, spirituality, and science. They sort of become kind of a hybrid of these different types of things. I was wondering, like, it's something I wrote down while you all were talking. Are you more likely to look at an art piece for historical context or like for inspiration, or would you rather look, I don't know, go to an observatory, or both? I mean, I'm just curious.
I think I will check all of that out.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think just everything in life is content, and I mean, for me personally, like, art making is how I come to understand the process, think about, explore the world, and art and life are inseparable from each other, and everything's.
So you're all working together almost every day, like very consistently, right? So, I mean, I feel like there's also a muscle memory that you get around people. When you're around them, like, you just get very used to their breathing patterns even. Like, I don't know. That must be sort of like you become like a body.
I think installing the dome was a good example of that, and the trust that's built in the studio.
The trust and the kindness is true. I mean, Heidi, who's the sculptor and the galleries who runs Lazy Eye, had to also help us. We couldn't do it. In the end, we couldn't do it with 3 people. So, and then Ricardo was there, so we had to be 5, and it took a lot of that. I want to say that, I mean, we spend a lot of time together, and we work together, and we're used to talking every day, and we have, all this time that we spend together. But I think I also see our practice is separate, and we have different reasons why we make works and different life experiences, etc. But we're also fascinated by similar things, and so we talk all the time about long temporalities, about sound, about, I don't know, what do we talk about all the time, guys?
And yeah, we also influence each other, you know.
Yeah.
We send videos, we send documents, we send information to each other.
We have a WhatsApp.
We have some WhatsApp group, and also we always thinking about like, oh, and seeing something as like, oh, this will interest Beatriz, and this will interest Philip or Ricardo. So yeah, like I said, we come to the terms that we know each other well, that we can determine what they will love or how we interact, and also and make our life easy, because working all day together is it's hard to be with someone that you don't have a connection.
I was also interested, I mean, some of the kind of concepts that you're all in different ways referencing in your work, they have an interesting relationship to time, okay? So, because time you can think about in different ways, right? You can think of like beyond time, timelessness. You can think of linear time. You can think of cyclical time. There are different conceptions of time, right? I mean, we tend to think, at least in this particular historical moment, we tend to think of linear time the most. But one thing that's really interesting about Joshua Tree is that it's a really weird space in terms of time, because time is made visible there in a very intense way. I was really blown away. Like last time I went to the park, this park ranger was giving a presentation on how the rock formations got pushed up, and it was a lot about very specific geological history and plates, and why it just looks so different than most other places, essentially. You know, that they like pop up really slowly. So I was wondering if maybe each of you could talk a little bit about your relationship to time, or how you think about time, maybe just as a person, but also in terms of like that specific place or your artwork in the exhibition.
Well, maybe I can start with this one. Well, time is central to my work. It's, you know, at the heart of my work, and my most important task is to destroy chronologies, to move away from imagining time as linear. And in order to not do that, I think of different ways of understanding temporalities, making visible long temporalities, multiple temporalities, like what Philip was talking about with regards to the light. I love that because it's, you know, everything around us has multiple temporalities, and modernity trains us to think in chronologies and to erase that multiplicity. And I think that for me, the experience of migration is central to that, because I feel that my life is not divided between Central America and Los Angeles, is happening at once. And I'm making art in the studio and talking to people in Central America all the time, and I'm hearing it's raining, this is happening, there's smoke, there's copal, there's a ceremony happening, you have to, here's a live feed so you can be here. So I'm there and I'm here and I'm there and I'm here, and that simultaneity is really important to my work, and I try to translate it to my work. But also I'm thinking of ancient indigenous cultures in Central America, particularly the Maya, and I'm thinking of how for the Maya, time is circular and there's different calendars happening at once. One calendar that serves to count time in our own era, one that has really long temporalities and is more geological, one that is for agriculture, and all these calendars are happening in a simultaneous way, so it's also about multiplicity. So time for me is really everything. It's all I think about all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think we exist a limited amount of time on this planet, and we tend to view the world through like a human time scale. And so I'm really interested in stepping outside of that and thinking about time and trying to imagine time the way other entities or forms of life that exist in relation to time in wildly different ways, what that experience might be like. Yeah, it's really interesting.
I feel like I share a lot of Beatriz's ideas in the sense of the time because since I'm from El Salvador and half of my family is over there, I had my life divided in these two places and these two times, and I always, like Beatriz mentioned, I was thinking about what they're doing over there and what I'm doing here, and also memory. Like I precious memory a lot, and I'm constantly thinking about my grandpas, and what they teach me and why their ancestors teach them, and that preserving that time and bringing that time to the present is something really important to me.
Yeah, well, it's funny, it reminds me of a quote, maybe Beatrice, this quote, you might be able to help me with it, but it was that Wittgenstein quote that's like, he who lives in the present lives in infinity, or something. I love that quote. Okay, so, I guess, I also wanted to ask, and maybe this is totally off base, but I was also thinking a lot about entropy to round out fragmentation and Joshua Tree and time, but I was thinking a lot about entropy, and I'm curious about this because, entropy, as I understand it, is the sort of concept that everything's kind of like getting more and more, moving towards chaos, right? I think that's the scientific concept of it. And, well, I guess especially with you, Beatriz, in terms of cyclical time, right, that's a very linear kind of perspective, right, that things are moving from order to chaos. I don't know, do you ever think about things like these scientific things like entropy? Because I see so much scientific observation in the work, or like a kind of a scientific mind in a lot of the different pieces and in the work. So I was curious about.
No, both entropy and the idea of acceleration, there's a lot of scholarship about acceleration, and I think that it's all inscribed in modernity, in the market, and in the crumbling of the human era, which is that very short period of time that you were talking about that we're on the planet.
The Anthropocene, is that what you mean? Or?
No, the idea of acceleration, there's a lot of speculative philosophers and thinkers that, unlike Negarastani, for example, that talk about acceleration, but they're talking about acceleration in the market. And speculation as acceleration and everything accelerating until it collapses. And there's graphs that talk about acceleration as a virus. Humans are like a virus on the planet. But I agree with you that that's a linear way of understanding temporalities, and there are also other temporalities, like Phillip said, that are before humans on this planet. This planet doesn't need us to exist. It has existed before us, it will exist after us, and so that acceleration only pertains us and is irrelevant to everything else. And the idea of multiple temporalities and the idea of multiplicities and simultaneities, to me is fascinating because it breaks with that. And also the idea that, as Tatiana was saying about memories, that we can revisit the past or revisit the present, reread it, reinterpret it. So we don't only have agency to change the future, but we can change the past, and we can change the present, and we can recreate it or reinvent it.
Well, I think that is a good place to end. Unless you have anything else, does anybody else want to say anything? Well, then I think maybe we're going to turn it over and take some questions from y'all. So get inquisitive. Anybody out there have a question? I know somebody has a question. We talked about a lot of deep stuff. All right, there we go.
I was curious about the history of the gallery and the structure itself and how that affected the work that you made and the installing of the work. I'm not familiar with this gallery at all. I've never seen it, so I was interested in it. I had a hard time figuring out what was art and what was gallery.
Well, the gallery fusion with the art, because those pieces were created thinking about the space and thinking about the landscape, and so we pretty much transform, and the space also led us to transform the area. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, the gallery used to be a water tower, and had so many interesting, like there's such a history in this space, both its past as a water tower and all the shows that have occurred in there. There's all these nails and lines, and like that skylight is such an interesting structure that I've never seen anywhere else before. And so it was really interesting to collaborate with that history. It's a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah, I think Heidi Schwegler, who's the sculptor who moved from Portland to that place, refurbished the building that was, highly abandoned up until that time, and turned it into a gallery, which is really beautiful. And she built her studios there, and also the Yucca Valley Material Lab, where people can take classes on glass casting and other things. Welding, we're going to be teaching a welding workshop there in the early fall.
Yes.
And so I think there's that history, but I really love that you're saying I don't know where the art is or the architecture, because we don't either. We wanted to turn the architecture into engage with the architecture to the point where it would become part of the exhibition, and go into its guts and transform its top and see it as something else, transform the landscape through it, etc. And we didn't want it to be a building that becomes a white box, that becomes invisible where we bring an object. We wanted our objects to engage with it to the point where it no longer was a water tower, it no longer was a gallery, but it was something else, and that, I think, was what was so much fun to do.
I found the sound just really soothing, so beautiful. I'm so glad that you added that. And I'm just wondering, how did you record it? Like, was it a specific location in the tower? And just, what do you think of that, with that element of sound? Because it just added another level to the art creation.
I think that's a question for Phillip.
Yeah, so the sounds recorded are of my stomach.
Your stomach is
Not for Phillip.
It's funny that you say that, because when the sound came on when I was testing it earlier, I at first thought, wow, my stomach is really loud. I must be, really. And then I was like, wait, no, that is actually coming from the computer. It's not coming from me.
Yeah, the sounds were generated by my stomach, but there's kind of a kind of.
I mean, we have lots of recordings, but in this case, that was your stomach.
Yeah. But it can also be sounds that are occurring beneath the earth, or some sounds that are being translated from the cosmos or outer space. There's kind of an ambiguity. I think that's interesting.
I think also it was an effort to, how do you say it, like, place the sound of that's inside a body as coming from the cosmos, place it, the idea that the sounds are coming either from above or below, that you can no longer tell. and to invite people to think of the Earth as the cosmos, because if you go up and there's a telescope, but it sends you to look down instead of looking up, and there's that play with vision and with sound that's about inside and outside, below and above, and all that movement.
Also, if you guys didn't catch it, you can hear it everywhere in the tower, but the sounds are coming from the seashell that is on top of the tower.
Number 3. There we go.
Thank you very much for the really good description. I want to ask to what extent being an immigrant and working on that land was affecting your work, or is it also part of your practice to work on different lands? Because I think as an immigrant, you always have this question of the ownership of the land, or to what extent I can really exist on this land and create artwork and get connected to the land. So I just wanted to ask, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that I'm making a work right now about a volcanic eruption that spread these particles all over the planet, turning the entire planet as land that has been covered by the underworld, the Mayan underworld. Therefore, the entire planet, one could say, is covered with the Mayan underworld. And, you know, I think it's really important to honor the people that are the original inhabitants of a land. At the same time, I think in the particular case of this exhibition, we are thinking about migration, the migration of matter. And we're thinking about the migration of light and the migration of sounds, not only across space, but also across temporalities. And so I don't know if Tatiana or Philip would agree, but I think it's possible that we are attempting to go beyond our own experience as immigrants or as people who have moved from one place to another, to speak of longer temporalities and the migration of matter and not our own migration. I don't feel that this exhibition, even though it's impossible and everything we do has something of ours, I don't feel this exhibition is a portrait of our own migration or it relates to our own migration. It's a portrait of the migration of matter, of waves, of sounds, of light. But I don't know if you guys would agree with that, because that's a really interesting thing to think about.
Yes, I agree with what you're saying, but also, like Beatriz says, it's hard also, I mean, it's always going to have something about us, but in this case, we were talking about these other bodies, they also migrate, not just humans. And migration, you know, as an immigrant, I become to the terms to understand the land. I don't own land because I'm just on the fly, I'm moving everywhere. So I become a nomad, and I can go anywhere and establish anywhere and move to other place the same way the rock does, because they come from the underworld, move and disintegrate and move by the rivers, move by the waters, and enter in the ocean. So everything is migration, and we're just part of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too, because when you think about it, if you think about the totality of like the human species, really the concept of owning land is a very small percentage of cultures and time, I think. It really, if you thought about it on an epic level, is most cultures in history, I don't know if they had much of a concept of ownership in that sense.
No, definitely, and I think, you know, honoring the original inhabitants of a land is a way to question the idea of private property and land ownership in the way that we understand it, because we are claiming that we own the land that we don't own. And so, yeah. Did you want to add anything?
Well, thank you all for coming to this last Art Talk Tuesday of this year, but I'll be taking a break for summer and we'll be starting again in September, so I hope to see you all then. All right, thank you, and thank you all.